Welcome to the Kendo and Aido Italia podcast in this English language version. Enjoy listening.
Welcome to a new episode of the podcast dedicated to Budo enthusiasts and those curious about the world of martial arts.
Willow, today, we're doing a real deep dive. It requires quite a bit of focus.
Right.
We're going into the logic, the protocol, the actual mechanics of the Nippon Kendo Kata.
Okay.
And this isn't just about learning moves. Our sources frame it as a kind of manual for building character and thinking strategically. Mm-hmm. It's all distilled into these precise forms.
Yeah, the sources are pretty clear on the mission, aren't they? Practice the kata specifically to get the principles of the katana, improve your technique, and fundamentally build character.
Exactly.
So we need to grasp how this really strict protocol connects directly to, strategic insight.
That's the core of it. If you truly internalize these movements the right way, you're essentially teaching yourself the logic of attack and defense. But maybe more importantly, you develop what's called kigamai.
That commanding presence you mentioned.
Yes, that's it. And the ultimate goal really is learning to read your opponent's mind, before they even start moving.
Okay, that's a high bar. Let's start unpacking that maybe right at the beginning with the ritual, the preparation ray.
Good place to start. It absolutely sets the mental stage.
Yeah.
The whole sequence, right from when you walk in, needs to be rooted in genuine, sincere respect. It's not just form.
How does that look practically?
Well, first, uchidachi, that's the initiator role they always lead.
Always leads, okay.
Both practitioners walk using ceremonial. It's that smooth, sliding foot movement, very dignified.
Right, no stomping around.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
They walk straight to the center of the shimosa, which is the designated spot, and perform zarai, the kneeling bow.
The walk itself sounds like a display of control, but the kneeling part, Caesar, the sources say it's incredibly strict.
Oh, it is. You draw your left foot back, sit down, then place the sword.
And placing the sword has its own rules, too.
Absolutely. You have to align the tsuba, the handguard, perfectly with your knee. And here's a really critical detail. Both hands touch the floor at the exact same time as you lower your head.
Simultaneously. Why is that so important?
That synchronization, that deliberate pace, it signals your focus is absolute. You're shifting from the everyday world into the focused world of the kata.
That makes sense. And then the bowing itself, there are two distinct types mentioned.
That's right. First, there's the formal standing bow towards the kamisa, the sort of revered spot in the dojo. That's about 30 degrees.
Okay, a deeper bow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then there's the bow between uchidachi and shidachi. This one's much slighter, only about 15 degrees.
15 degrees, but the sources emphasize something about that moment.
They do. It has to be done in complete silence.
Okay.
And while you're bowing, you're meant to be contemplating your opponent.
Ah, so the silence isn't empty, it's charged.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
the moment the ritual part stops and the mental engagement, the real duel of minds, begins.
Before that duel can start, though, you've got the sword to manage. Whether it's a wooden bokudo or a blunt training sword, a habiki.
Right. You switch it to your left hand, thumb goes onto the tsuba, and you make sure the bottom of the handle, the hilt, lines up perfectly with your body's center line. Every little detail is deliberate.
Okay, so the ritual's done, you're focused, sword is ready. Now we get into the engagement itself, the foundational ideas. Let's clarify those roles, uchidachi and shidachi.
Okay. Uchidachi is the one who initiates the attack. They present the problem, you could say.
The problem, I like that.
And shidachi is the one who solves it. They counter the attack, and ultimately they win the exchange in the kata.
Well, hold on. If uchidachi always starts the action, how does shidachi ever get to practice taking the initiative? That seems so central to kendo, taking sen. Doesn't that structure kind of limit shidachi?
That is an excellent question, and it really gets to the cleverness of the kata's design.
Okay.
See, the kata is structured precisely so shidachi can practice reading uchidachi's intent.
Yeah.
Even though uchidachi makes the first physical move, shidachi's response has to be proactive, not just reactive.
Ah, okay. So the rules set the scene, but shidachi wins through timing and anticipation.
Exactly. We'll get more into that timing, the sen, shortly.
Before timing, we need the foundation stance. Let's break down the geometry of the main one, chudan no kamae.
Right, the middle guard. And it's not arbitrary at all. It dictates your potential energy, your defense. So right foot is forward.
Okay.
Your left fist is held about one closed fist distance away from your navel. Critically, the base of that left thumb should be right at navel height.
Got it. So center line protected, hips are set. What about the feet? The positioning sounds really specific, too.
It is. Toes point straight forward. Feet are about a fist's width apart. But here's the key alignment. The tip of your left foot must line up exactly with your right ankle.
Right ankle. Why that specific point?
Maximum stability. It ensures you're perfectly centered over your base, which minimizes any wasted movement when you need to strike or evade.
So from this stable base, all the energy gets focused.
Where?
Out through the sword tip.
Precisely. To the ken-sen, the sword tip. And its positioning is the ultimate display of precision and applying psychological pressure.
How so?
The tip must point along an invisible line. Imagine it extending from the base of the tsuba through the very tip, the kisaki, and aiming at one single point on your opponent.
Which point?
Either directly between their eyes or specifically at their left eye. By constantly holding that thread, you're applying pressure without even moving.
And managing that pressure happens within the concept of distance, May.
Yes, and the ideal is isokoe tonome.
Define that for us.
The sources are really clear. It's the perfect striking distance. The distance where you can strike your opponent by taking exactly one step forward.
Or
you can evade their strike by taking exactly one step back. If you're not in isokoe tonome, you've essentially given up control of the engagement before it even starts.
Wow. Okay, stance, distance, precision. Now we get into the timing with the longsword, the tachi no kata. This feels like the strategic core, seizing the initiative sen.
It really is. This is where shidachi uses 3 distinct types of timing or initiative to secure the win. The most difficult, arguably, is sen-sen no sen.
Sen-sen no sen, what does that mean?
It means shidachi recognizes the opponent's intention to attack before they even physically start. Maybe a tiny shift in weight, a change in breathing, a flicker in their spirit.
So you sense the thought.
You sense the thought, the arising of the intent, and you strike immediately. You take the initiative before their attack even begins to form. It's striking the concept, the spirit.
That's incredible. Okay, so that's preemptive. What's next? Sen no sen.
And no sen. This means seizing the initiative during the engagement. Uchidachi is committed, they're moving, but shidachi disrupts that flow. Maybe adjusts distance, applies pressure, finds a momentary weakness in uchidachi's action, and strikes then.
Interrupting the opponent's rhythm.
Exactly. And the third one is go no sen. This is probably the most intuitive one.
The counterattack.
Yes, the classic counter. The opponent has fully started their attack, maybe even completed it. Shidachi receives or evades the attack and then immediately counters.
So those 3, sen no sen, sen no sen, go no sen, they cover the whole spectrum of timing possibilities.
They do. And practicing them forces you to develop this incredibly sharp awareness of your opponent's rhythm and intention.
Can we look at a concrete example from the kata? Something that shows this timing and maybe that spirit element, zanshin?
Sure. There's a sequence where uchidachi strikes shomen straight down at the head. Shidachi doesn't just block. They avert the blow, redirect it, and strike back. The physical technique concludes there.
But it's not over.
Not at all. After landing the strike, shidachi immediately raises their sword into Marote Hidari Jodan.
The left side high stance.
Right, and holds it there, demonstrating zanshin, that lingering spirit, that commanding presence. It shows unequivocally that the fight is over. The opponent knows they've been defeated.
Even if the strike wasn't fatal, in a real scenario, the zanshin confirms the win.
Precisely. And we see the mental aspect even more clearly in another technique involving a thrust. Uchidachi thrusts. Shidachi parries it, then immediately thrusts back towards uchidachi's chest, but deliberately stops short. No actual penetration. Instead, shidachi closes the distance using kurezumi, this overwhelming spiritual pressure, and raises the ken-sen right up to the opponent's face.
Wow. The sword stops, but the intent, the pressure continues. That's pure psychological dominance.
The mind wins the fight, even if the blade doesn't need to. It's powerful stuff.
There's another one mentioned, dodging a thrust to the lung using makikaisi. That sounds complex.
It is, makikaisi. Visually, what happens is shidachi has to simultaneously raise their left fist above their head. This makes the sword move in an arc, pointing the tip backward over their shoulder, essentially.
So it's a kind of overhead evasion?
It's more of a subtle redirection using the body turn and lift. It's not a big block. It creates just enough space, often leveraging uchidachi's own forward momentum against them.
Timing must be critical.
Absolutely crucial. The source notes that if it's timed perfectly, uchidachi might even be forced to take a small step back because the distance becomes too close after the evasion. That confirms shidachi's control before they immediately counterstrike to shomen.
Okay, so the tachi no kata is really focused on distance, timing, reading intent, playing that mind game. How does the kodachi no kata, the short sword section, differ?
it shifts the strategy quite a bit. The context for initiation actually changes.
How so?
In the kodachi forms, uchidachi still strikes, but their strike is described as a response to shidachi's irimi intent.
Irimi. That's entering. Applying pressure.
Exactly. Shidachi, with the shorter sword, is actively applying physical and mental pressure, trying to break into uchidachi's range. This pressure forces uchidachi to react, often by striking shomen somewhat defensively.
Ah, so the short sword user essentially baits the attack from the long sword.
You could see it that way. It forces the opponent to commit, which then plays to the short sword's strengths. Closer range, deflection, agility.
And the key technique here is ukanagashi.
Yes, deflecting flow. As uchidachi strikes down, shidachi turns their body slightly to the right and uses the left shinogi, that's the ridge along the side of the blade, to deflect the incoming strike.
Not a hard block then.
No. The sources emphasize it's light. It's not done way overhead. It uses minimal effort to redirect the long sword's force, allowing shidachi to counter instantly, usually to shomen.
Clever use of leverage and angle. Then there's that really sophisticated defensive sequence mentioned, the 4-part one starting from a gedan hanmi stance.
Yes. That sequence is about total weapon control at close range. It combines tsuryuge, tsuryutoshi, tsurunagashi, and tsurikomi.
Okay, break that down.
Imagine uchidachi striking down. Tsuryuge lifts or slides up their blade. Tsuryutoshi slides down their blade. Tsurunagashi pushes or flows their sword across their body, controlling its line. And tsurikomi finishes the control, sliding down their blade and effectively trapping it.
So it's not 4 separate blocks, but one continuous flowing motion that captures the opponent's weapon.
Precisely. It's designed as a fluid sequence to neutralize and control the longer weapon.
And the level of detail is still extreme here.
Immense. When shidachi completes the final trapping move, tsurikomi, which involves a specific kind of wrist-cocking motion, the instruction is that both swords habaki, the little metal collars at the base of the blade, they must end up locked together at a perfect right angle.
Wow. That tiny point of contact signifies total control.
It guarantees control over uchidachi's weapon and arm, demonstrating complete tactical dominance at that close range.
Okay, so bringing this all together, from the silent bow, the precise footwork, the different timings, the psychological pressure, right down to locking the habaki. What's the big picture takeaway?
I think the overarching lesson is about synthesis and discipline. You have to understand the why, the rationale and logic behind every single movement. You need to master all the stances, the 5 kamae for the tachi, the kodachi, hanmi, or kamae.
The 2 roles have to work together perfectly.
In profound harmony. Uchidachi and shidachi need to understand each other's roles so completely that the timing, the techniques, they just flow flawlessly, almost predictively.
It really is like a physical dialogue. And all that intense focus on detail. The tsuryashi walking, the constant eye contact, getting the ken-sen alignment just right. It all serves that bigger goal you mentioned earlier, developing presence and reading intent.
Absolutely. The physical practice is the vehicle. It's the way you train your mind, your spirit, your intuition.
Which leads us to that final thought for people to consider.
Yeah, think about this. The kata demands this almost unbelievable level of technical perfection. We're talking numbers. The ken-sen has to be exactly 3 to 6 centimeters below the knee in one stance. Angles must be 45 degrees. The hand exactly 1 fist from the navel.
Millimeter level stuff.
Exactly. So the question is, how does striving for that kind of minute technical perfection fundamentally change the practitioner's character, their spirit, their kigamai? Especially when they eventually face an opponent where nothing is scripted.
How does that obsessive precision translate into adaptable mastery?
Right. It forces an internalization that goes so much deeper than just learning choreography. It shapes the person.
A profound thought indeed. The perfection in the small things, creating mastery in the large spirit.
Well put.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Kendo in Ayato, Italy. See you soon.
Thank you for listening to this podcast.
Kendo Iaido Italia, il podcast.